Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is for Monday, August 27th, all the way through until Sunday, September 2nd of 2018. And oh my goodness, you guys, I have had a tricky week and also a very rewarding week, and I am just so happy to be here, back to work right now. Very grateful to be doing this video for you guys and to be delivering good news for once. Because we've been having, a little bit of turbulence with the eclipse seasons, a lot of sort of stuck energy, a lot of sort of hesitation, needing to revise, re-edit, redo things with all of the retrogrades. Now things are starting to finally move forward. We're making some progress here, especially as we come into this week. We have Mercury, which is finally just full-blown moving forward. We have Mars this week, which is going to be stationing to finally move direct at 28 degrees in Capricorn on Monday the 27th. And this is big news because Mars only retrogrades once every couple of years. It causes us to have to sort of reinforce and restructure some area of our lives and of our charts. Especially this time around, the energy of the Mars retrograde had a lot to do with unlocking and unblocking sort of blockages to accessing our willpower and doing the things that we want to do, taking the initiative to take charge of our lives and make the changes that we need to make in our lives, right? So we've been doing a lot of revisiting old frustrations, old blockages, and removing these blockages. So that way we can move forward with greater clarity, with greater force of will, right? With greater strength and courage. These are all Mars attributes: strength, courage, willpower, action, muscle, right? Maybe people have been revisiting old sorts of workout routines or health regimens and things like that, reintegrating these energies, because a lot of these energies have been revisited in order to have to remove these blockages or to reintegrate something that maybe we've lost that was helping us to move forward in a way that was very willful and decisive and powerful, right? These are all, again, Mars attributes. And so, these past however many weeks, Mars went retrograde June 27th, and now we're coming up to August 27th. So it's been 2 months of Mars being in retrograde where we've had to be very patient. There's been a lot of change in the air, a lot of rearranging, a lot of turbulence, right? With the eclipses, a lot of showing us where in our life we've become stuck, we've become stagnant, things have become frustrating for us, where we've needed to change our path, change our direction with the eclipses, right? And with Uranus in the mix, it's about breaking up stuck, stagnant energy. And we've done a lot of that on an energetic level. We've done a lot of rearranging in terms of our plans, in terms of our direction in life. Or maybe it's just been a lot of internal work, looking at these blockages to expressing anger, right? Because that's important as well. It's, healthy to express anger, to express strong emotion when we feel very strongly. And a lot of us tend to bottle these things up because, it's not socially acceptable to have an outburst at a certain time, or we feel like we can't, or we're afraid to express these emotions. And when Mars goes retrograde, it opens us up to be able to express ourselves much more freely, especially when it comes to strong emotions like anger, which sometimes they need to get out, right? It's not a bad thing. It's a human thing to feel anger, resentment, irritation, frustration. And so dealing with that and releasing it can be so liberating and so freeing, right? Once you've moved through that energy, it's like, you can breathe again. And so we've done a lot of that work. And so now Mars is going direct. And so for the next 2 months, especially all the way through until October 9th, we're going to be having Mars moving forward over the path where it was just going retrograde. And so now we get to revisit that energy, but we get to use it for forward momentum, for progress. And so this is where we're going to see a lot of growth, a lot of expansion, a lot of progress over these next couple of months, in the area of the chart, in the area of our lives that I'm going to be discussing when I go through the forecast for each of the 12 signs. One of the things that I would also like to mention is that the first, right now, Mars is in the sign of Capricorn, right? When we started out with this Mars retrograde, it was in Aquarius. So we've had a couple of different contexts, a couple of different areas of our life that we've been working on restructuring and rebuilding throughout this time period, at least when you look at the whole signs chart, which is what I do for these generalized readings. If you know how it's been acting in your Placidus chart, of course, look at that as well. But we've been having these Aquarius sorts of moments where we've had to sort of go back and revisit sort of dogmatic ideologies, adherence to social norms, looking at caring too much about what other people think about what it is that we're doing, emotional detachment, these types of sort of energies and blockages that can come up with the Mars retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, right? It doesn't mean that Aquarians are all emotionally detached and have all these issues. It's just we're dealing with the blockages that are associated with an Aquarian energy, right? Every sign has good and bad qualities, or perceived good and bad qualities, I should say, because I don't think that any of these qualities are inherently negative or positive, but they can express that way if they're a little out of balance, right? And so now we've gone back into Capricorn. We've been in Capricorn since August 14th, and we will remain in Capricorn, let's see, all the way through until September 12th. So for a couple more weeks, we're going to be dealing with moving forward in the Capricorn area of our lives. So revisiting the energy of the past 2 weeks, especially, and what we've been restructuring and revisiting and the blockages we've been removing during that time, and then moving forward in that area. And then after that point, we're going to get into the Aquarius, which we're going to be revisiting energy from way back in June and July. And, we're going to be moving forward with a lot of that stuck stagnant energy. And of course, as the weeks go by and we revisit the conjunction to the South Node, the square to Uranus, and any other sorts of configurations that came up during the retrograde, I'll talk about this. I'll give you, a heads up as to what we're moving forward with, what to look back on, what to reflect on, all of that. So that's pretty much the big event for this week. There's not a lot of planetary craziness, no major planetary aspects to talk about. It's just Mars stationing to go direct. And I feel like that's enough because that's a big thing, right? And so before we get into the forecast, though, for all 12 signs, if you're not already sick of me talking about this, I'm really excited about it, though. I'm doing a webinar on September 15th all about astrocartography and relocation astrology. And so if you haven't already signed up, or maybe this is the first time you're watching, the first time you're hearing me talk about this, I'm going to be doing a really in-depth webinar all about timing of relocation, the best places for you to live based on your birth charts, the best places for you to travel to, the best places for you to connect with other people for business, for finance, for love, for whatever it is that you're interested in enhancing. You can do that through relocation astrology. And so I'm going to be teaching like a 4, maybe 5-hour webinar. I'm going to try to keep it to 4, where we're going to be doing lots of examples, lots of interaction. And I've already had so many people sign up. Thank you so much to all of you who have signed up. It's way beyond what I expected already, but there's still time to register for the webinar at a discounted rate. It's $10 off all the way through until September 15th. And then after that, it's going to go up in price to $40, or $39. So anyway, sign up. The link is in the description below. And of course, if you want to book a reading with me, you can always do that. The link to do that is also in the description of this video down below. And so now we're going to get into the forecast for all 12 signs. And we're going to start, of course, with Aries. And so for Aries, this is a big week for Aries in particular because, rearranging all of my notes. I always have so much stuff going on here on my desk when I'm doing these. You can't see that, but there's like piles and stacks and different things happening all the time. But for Aries and for Aries rising, so this is going to be especially potent in terms of the energy for Aries rising in particular, because for Aries rising, Mars is the ruler of your entire chart. So whatever Mars is doing is going to be extra important for somebody who has strong Aries energy in their chart, but especially for Aries rising signs. And so always listen for your rising sign first if you can, and then your sun sign is secondary in these sort of general interpretations. It's just going to be more accurate that way. The sun sign is still going to be accurate, but the most accurate predictions will come through your rising sign if you happen to know your birth time and can get your rising sign, right? And so for Aries, this is happening. The ruler of your chart is stationing to go direct. So you have been, especially as an Aries, right? Aries wants to go, go, go. You need forward momentum. You need excitement. You need that ability to initiate. And that's been a little stuck, right? There's been some hesitation. There's been a need to take a step back and to rearrange your plans before moving forward, to revisit old energies before jumping into the new, which is, it's in your nature to want to jump into something new, to constantly be seeking excitement, thrill, newness, right? And so now you get to do that again. So that's exciting. And for Aries and for Aries rising in particular, especially if this is happening, where if your ascendant, sun or moon, or any of your personal planets really are at 28 degrees or near 28 degrees. So I would say 25 to, 29 degrees in the sign of Aries, or even the first degree of Taurus, really, you're going to be feeling this stationary direct position the most because it'll be in square with your rising sign, sun sign, moon sign. And so for you, if you do have your rising sign or any of your planets at the end degrees of Aries, this start of this week could feel a little bit frustrating, a little bit turbulent. You might have some challenges that you need to sort of work with, overcome, but be patient. This isn't the time to just jump into something, even if you're feeling really heated up and really fired up. This is a time to look at what's blocking you, what's causing you to feel frustrated, so that way you can remove those blockages, so you can move forward courageously. You can move forward and access your willpower much more effectively from a place of great clarity, right? So you're very clear on what you're doing and how you're going to do it. And, that's a very positive thing. You make better decisions when you're coming from a place of clarity instead of frustration, anger, just needing to change something because something needs to change. What needs to change? Why? What's blocking you from changing it? And how can you remove those blockages? Because there might still be something left over, right, that you need to work with this week. But in terms of Mars stationing, Mars has started to retrograde since August 14th in your 10th house of career and public reputation. And so for the past couple of weeks, you've been maybe feeling a little stuck, a little pressure, like you need to restructure something when it comes to your work, your career, what it is that you're doing out in the world, looking at old frustrations, old stagnant energy that's been stuck, that's been blocking your ability to access your willpower and to move forward with something important with your career and what it is that you want to do out in the world, right? And so this Mars stationing to go direct is the beginning of some forward momentum in this area that's going to last for you all the way through until September 12th. So you have a couple of weeks of forward momentum where over these past couple of weeks, if you've been thinking about, wanting to change something, to move forward with something new in the realm of career, now's a time when you'll be able to start getting the ball rolling and setting things in motion. After that fact, you're going to be looking at any stuck, stagnant energy, frustrations that you need to revisit from the time prior to that, involving your friends, your social networks, groups of people, the people that you spend your time with and surround yourself with. There could have been some sort of conflict or pressure or difficulty in that area, or something that you need to change involving groups of people, or the way that you connect with people out in the world or via the internet or social media. That's, the 11th house as well. And so you'll get some forward momentum going in that area too. But for now, it's really centered around career, right? And what it is that you're doing out in the world. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising. So Mars is stationing to go direct in your 9th house, which is your house of beliefs. So what beliefs have you been dealing with lately that have left you unable to access your willpower? Where is that stuck, stagnant energy occurring for you in your life, right? Because the 9th house is the house of your overarching beliefs, your core values, your core belief systems that frame your entire reality and every choice that you make, everything that you do in life, the way you perceive the world. These are all framed by the 9th house, by your beliefs, right? Your perceptions, your paradigm, your religious values, your philosophical beliefs, your morals, your ethics, all of these things. And in some way, your old belief systems, your old paradigms have been stuck, stagnant, and frustrated. And, there has been maybe a blockage in this area that's prevented you from moving forward with doing something new, something adventurous, something exciting for yourself, right? So taking a look at that on Monday, because you're about to be moving forward. This could have been you restructuring and rearranging your education, needing to look at maybe going back to school or revisiting something in terms of your past educational pursuits, something that you've learned in the past. Maybe you had to go back and, look over your old textbooks or something like that to get some new information, or dig up some old information from the past that'll help you to move forward with greater clarity, right? And so you've been looking at unblocking and removing blockages and stuck, stagnant energy, frustrated energy that's preventing you from moving forward and initiating action in this area, restructuring the area of your belief systems, your values. It's also the area of adventure, right? Foreign travel, long distance travel, teachers. And so maybe this is a time over these next couple of weeks when you've been thinking about connecting with a new teacher or traveling to a foreign country, going somewhere far away. And now you get to actually move forward with making those plans, right? Making those travel plans, connecting with that person, reaching out, starting that new course that you wanted to start. And then after that, it's going to be moving into career, right? So as we come into mid-September, you're going to have some forward momentum with your career, things that you started the first time around, in June and July. Those things will come into fruition, and you'll start to have a lot of forward momentum. All of eclipse season right now, everything that happened over these past couple of months for you, all of the changes, all of the turbulence, all of the sign synchronicities, the stuff that you've been wanting to move forward with, but it hasn't been able to sort of fully take hold, all of that's going to start to push forward for you over these next couple of weeks. And so that's going to be actually a really positive, really beautiful thing, especially for Taurus in the ninth house. This is a time when you can have all sorts of great new adventures. And so you have that to look forward to. It could still feel a little frustrating on Monday, but just know that that's going to pass. It's not going to be a forever energy. And then especially as we come into the end of this week, which I forgot to talk about, there's some really great energy with the moon and the sun and, the lunar phases and things like that, where a lot of the energy from the beginning of the week where it feels maybe a little frustrating, like you have something left that you have to push forward with, you get that momentum going, and then you get to start to take action as Mars moves forward, right? And you get to start to take action with the moon making these positive aspects. And so it's going to be a good week. All right. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, this energy for Mars stationing is happening in your 8th house. So over these past couple of weeks, since the 14th of August, you've had Mars retrograding in your 8th house, which has to do with power, control, sex, death, debt, joint finances, other people's money, disempowerment, things that we're afraid of, right? Because the 8th house is the house of our fears. And so when we're holding on to fear will disempower us and it'll prevent us from moving forward. So it holds power over us, even if it's subconscious or unconscious, and we're not fully, especially if we're not fully aware of it, right? Because when we're not aware of the unconscious drivers that are motivating us, they have way more power over us. So the past couple of weeks have been a time to look at your fears, look at how these subconscious, unconscious fears and anxieties have been blocking you from acting on your willpower and moving forward in the world in the way that you want to, right? So this has been a time of self-respect, reflection, introspection, and empowerment. And so now, especially in the 8th house, the 8th house is very willful, right? It's about using your inner power. And with Mars, it's taking that inner power and manifesting it outwardly. So doing something physical with it. And so now you get to move forward. You get to start to manifest something. Maybe you want to move forward with something where you're working on overcoming your fears. Maybe you've been able to address one of your fears. You brought it up. It wasn't as scary as you thought it was. Now that blockage is removed and you're going to go do that thing that you thought that you were so afraid of. Maybe, you've been dealing with things involving debt, because debt disempowers us as well, right? Because that's somebody else holding money over our heads. And so Mars moving forward could be you tackling that problem head on, paying off that debt, getting rid of it and moving into something new. Maybe there's an investment, because the 8th house is the house of investments that you've been wanting to make. And now you get to actually move forward with that after you've been planning and behind the scenes, getting all the details and your ducks in a row. And now you get to move forward with something new in this area. So you have the next couple of weeks to move forward with feeling more empowered. This is also a very sensual, sexually charged energy. So this is you moving forward with your passions, connecting very deeply and passionately and intimately with other people in relationship. That's another really great manifestation of Mars in the 8th house. And this is you taking that that inner strength, that inner power, and using it to channel it through your willpower into taking some sort of decisive, focused action over these next couple of weeks. And so this is getting you all revved up and charged up and ready to go. And then after that, after September 15th, it's going to be moving into your ninth house, which is moving forward with new plans, new adventures, looking at your belief systems, new ideas, new learning, new education, all of these types of things. But for now, it's about your willpower. It's about self-empowerment. It's about facing your fears. It's about getting your finances in order. It's about connecting to people in a deep, intimate, physical way. All of these energies. And so for Cancer and for Cancer rising, this energy of Mars stationing to go retrograde is happening in your seventh house. The seventh house is the house of relationship. And so, the past couple of weeks since August 14th might have brought up frustration, arguments, aggressiveness, blockages in your relationships that are preventing you from acting on your willpower, on acting on your self-interest, or maybe you've been acting too much on your own self-interest and that came up. And so you had to take a step back, right? This could also bring passive aggressive energies in relationships and things of that nature, but these are coming up to show you something, right? They're showing you where the dynamics of your relationship are not working, the power struggles need to end, and you need to move forward with greater decisiveness, greater clarity, greater momentum, do something new in partnership with other people. That could be something that you've been working toward or working on. This is another energy that's really great for, sexual energy. It's good for passion in the bedroom. So if you are in relationship, especially in a marriage partnership, this is a really great energy, not just for arguments and, airing all your dirty laundry and like letting things out and getting it out there so it's released and so it's not stuck and stagnant. You're not harboring resentment about, oh, my husband 6 weeks ago didn't take out the garbage or whatever it is that you're holding on to. Maybe something bigger than that, right? But you're not harboring these resentments. You don't have these blockages anymore. So now you can move forward and do something and initiate action more passionately, more courageously together, right? Instead of working against each other, you work together to create something new. This is really great for starting some sort of new partnership in business even, because this isn't always about one-on-one relationship, or at least it's always about one-on-one relationships, but it's not always about romantic relationships or sexual partnerships. This is also about close friendships, right? You could have had arguments in your friendships, power struggles, disputes, and now you get to move forward together decisively to act on your willpower as a unit, right? And so that's a really great energy as well. Mars in the seventh house is the house of open enemies. And so you might have had somebody just come up and, do something crazy. And, so an enemy might have showed their face, right? And so this is a time when you could have worked through that. And now that you've worked through that, you see what's going on, you can move forward and that blockage is gone. You don't have to worry about it anymore and you don't have to care about what they think, and you can just head into something new. So this is about new beginnings in relationships for the next 2 weeks, especially until September 12th. And then it's going to be moving into your eighth house, and that's going to be about self-empowerment. That's going to be about digging deep, addressing your fears, moving forward, accessing the higher will, and, taking action from a place of true power and true clarity, where it's like coming from something deeper and then manifesting physically. But for this week, for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be about relationships. Okay. For Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leo and for Leo rising, this energy is happening in your sixth house through to your seventh house. If you've had your sun, moon, or if you have your sun, moon, and rising, if you have your sun, moon, or rising, anywhere from 0 degrees in Leo all the way to 9 degrees in Leo, this is going to be coming over your ascendant again at some point, or your descendant again at some point. And so, this will also be a lot about relationships for Leos. But this week it's happening in your sixth house, right? So the sixth house is the house of work. It's the house of health. It's the house of your coworkers. It's the house of your daily routines. It's what you do to keep yourself going on a day-to-day basis. And so over the past couple of weeks, you might have been looking at blockages that are preventing you from acting on your own self-interest, acting on your willpower, doing what you want to do in your day-to-day work experience, in your health, right? Blockages to health, maybe some sort of health problem came up or some sort of injury or accident. I hope that's not the case, but if it did come up, it came up so you could address it, so you could address those blockages, so you could revisit that energy, restructure that area, restructure your daily routines to create better health for yourself moving forward. And so for the next 2 weeks, while Mars is still moving quite slowly, you're going to be addressing issues involving coworkers. There could have been arguments and disputes in that area that came up. And so you're going to be able to move forward with better routines, with being able to access your will and do what you want to do on a day-to-day basis a little bit more. This would have been a really great time, and still is a really great time, for you to visit some sort of new exercise routine where you're moving your body, right? That's Mars, it's your muscles, it's your physical activity. In the sixth house, it's health. And then over the next couple of weeks, especially as we get into the middle and end of September, all the way through the beginning of October, you're going to have Mars transiting your descendant. You're going to have Mars transiting your seventh house. And so this is going to be about power struggles and disputes in relationships, and revisiting energy that came up that was stuck and stagnant. Maybe you let go of certain relationships over the course of these past 2 months with Mars in retrograde. And so now you get to move forward because you have more freedom to act on your own willpower, or to act on, or if you had old disputes and arguments that came up, right, in your relationships that you needed to sort of address and work through and let go of, you get to move forward with your partner without all that baggage, that resentment, that stuck sort of angry energy, and you'll get to move forward together as a unit to do something new together, right? It's a new beginning. It's a reigniting of passion in relationships. This could also apply to business partnerships, friendships, where you get to move forward again as a unit together, where you're not combating each other, where there's no friction, tension, there's no underlying resentment, passive aggressive behavior going on. That's all been let loose. You've aired your dirty laundry, right? And now you get to move forward. And so that is really great news for Leo and for Leo rising. All right. And for Virgo rising, this energy is going to be happening in your fifth house. The fifth house is the house of romance. It's the house of children. It's the house of play. And so the past couple of weeks, especially since August 14th, you've been sort of revisiting and restructuring this area of life, right? Adding new structure and new form to your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love to do. You might have had disputes and difficulties that came up in your romantic life that you had to deal with, right? And so sort of airing your dirty laundry, getting it all out there, dealing with those frustrations, those arguments, those disputes, so that way you can move forward together with greater clarity, reigniting your passion in your romantic life. All of these themes could have come into play. This could have also brought a need to look at blockages to your willpower that are preventing you from doing the things that you love to do because you love to do them, right? So it could be things like guilt, things like just causing yourself to be too busy, especially with Mars retrograding also in your sixth house, right? Just prior to that, maybe your daily routines were not allowing for fun, for joy, because the fifth house is the house of joy. And so this is looking at blockages to you acting on your willpower, acting on your self-interest in order to connect with your joy. And so now you get to move forward and you get to do the things that you love to do, and you get to do them because you love to do them. If you worked really hard, if you changed your daily routines during the time when Mars was retrograding in your sixth house, right? And if you made space for you to be able to enjoy yourself more, if you restructured that area, restructured your plans and goals, and looked at what's important to you in life, so that way now you can initiate a new beginning in this area of your chart, right? A new beginning in the area of play, of fun, of children, right? And it could have been that you had to renegotiate, with your partner who gets to take care of the children and when, or maybe there was like power struggles, disputes, difficulty involving your children, where you needed to get it out there, you needed to deal with those frustrations, and now you get to move forward with a better relationship with your children, or if you're a woman, the father of your children especially. And so you get to move forward with these relationships in a way that serves you better, where you have a better, relationship with your children, where maybe you had to be more in charge. Maybe you've been a little bit passive, a little bit lenient, with Capricorn on your fifth house cusp. usually not. Maybe you've been too strict. And so you've been the one that's been infringing on the willpower of your children and not allowing them the freedom that they need to initiate, to create, to do the things that they love to do, right? And so whatever the blockage was for you, whatever the restructuring was that's been taking place, now you get to move forward and you get to reap the rewards and benefits of this. And then moving forward even further into the future, middle of September all the way through the beginning of October, we're going to be moving forward with new plans, new beginnings, new routines for yourself when it comes to your health, right? That's the sixth house. When it comes to your daily routines, when it comes to your work, your relationship with your coworkers, if you had disputes in that area. And so really powerful, exciting new beginnings can happen for you when it comes to your work, your career, what it is that you do out in the world, but especially when it comes to your day-to-day work routines, your health habits. Maybe you had some sort of health issue come up and you had to look at the blockages to good health, right, that you were sort of carrying around with you, whether that's a belief system, whether that's a state of just existing in your day-to-day life, if that's your health routines, or maybe neglecting your health routines or being too rigid in your health routines. Virgos tend to take really good care of their health, but they can sometimes overdo it. So if you were overdoing it and maybe that was the problem, maybe you were able to relax a little bit more. And so you can have more time in your day-to-day life to focus on other things, to focus on your work and what it is that you're doing out in the world to serve other people. And disputes with coworkers, things like that could have obviously come up with having Mars in your sixth house. And so this is the time when you get to kind of move forward, right? Because all that craziness, all that stuck energy, all of that dirty laundry has been aired, all those frustrations have been aired and let go of and released, hopefully, if you weren't holding it up. If you're bottling it up, it'll be released when it goes forward. But if you were able to get that out there, if you were able to renegotiate, your terms and your agreements when it comes to your coworkers and the people that you work with on a day-to-day basis, now you can move forward more decisively. You can act on your willpower a little bit more. You don't have all that frustration bogging you down and holding you back from enjoying your day-to-day experience. And so, that's going to be a really positive thing for Virgos. All right. For Libra and for Libra rising, for the past 2 weeks, there's been a lot of energy with Mars retrograding in your fourth house. And especially if you have your sun, moon, or rising in Libra at the end degrees. So that's going to be 25 to 30 degrees about. Even the first degree of Scorpio would apply for this as well. But you're going to be feeling this a little bit more strongly at the beginning of this week because you're going to have Mars stationing in square with your ascendant and descendant. Especially if this is your ascendant, you're going to be feeling this quite strongly. But even, your sun, your moon, any of your personal planets at those end degrees of Libra. But what this is going to do is it's going to cause you to feel very frustrated. It's going to get you really fired up about something, but you're not going to be able to move just yet. And so that's the most frustrating part, is like it feels like you need to do something. You need to initiate some sort of action, but you can't quite get yourself to move forward yet. It's not quite ready. It's not quite time. It's not quite there. And so you have to wait, right? There's an energy of patience, and it can be quite frustrating, especially at the start of this week. But at the end of this week, it'll start to lessen. Mars starts to move a little bit, and you'll start to be able to move forward again. And for you, for Libra and Libra rising, you're going to be having Mars stationing to go direct in your fourth house. And the fourth house is the house of home, family, property. And so it could be that there was something that you needed to change, or that you've been working on or thinking about changing these past couple of weeks in terms of your home, your family, your property. Maybe you've been taking on too much in terms of baggage or burden for your family, and you've been needing to free up some energy to act, on your own self-interest. Maybe you've been thinking about renovating your home or moving, to a new home. And so now is the time when you get to move forward and you get to start taking action on those ideas, those plans that you've needed to be patient with up until this point. Maybe there have been arguments and disputes with your family members. Maybe this is a situation where the anger that's been repressed, when it comes to your relationship with your family, you had to look at that, you had to examine it, you had to express it out in the world even. Maybe if not expressing it directly to your family members, maybe you had to, write it or get it out there, or just, let it out in some sort of way. And now that you've let it out, there's a greater sense of clarity, and you can move forward as a unit with your family, with new plans, with a new structure for your relationship, right? Because this is about restructuring that area of your life. This could just be you restructuring your home life in general and your ability to sort of relax and do the things that you want to do when you're in your home environment. And then with Mars moving to go forward, it's going to also be transiting your fifth house, which is the house of romance. It's the house of love. It's the house of play. It's the house of fun. It's the house of things that you do because you love to do it, because it favors your own self-interest, right? And so for the most part, during this Mars retrograde, you've been looking at stuck, stagnant energy that's been blocking your willpower in terms of you being able to do what you want to do romantically, you being able to do what you want to do because you love to do it, because it's fun for you, because it brings you joy, because it feels like play. And so now you get to move forward because you've removed those blockages, you've dealt with those energies, and you might have to revisit a little bit of it here and there, because that's retrogrades are all about revisiting energy over and over and over again. But hopefully, if you've dealt with this energy, you're going to be getting a lot of forward momentum. You're going to be able to initiate action because you love to do it, and you're going to be able to do that with greater decisiveness, greater clarity. There's going to be no blockage or hindrance to your willpower, so you're going to be able to engage in life with much more joy, to engage in romance with much more passion and play and excitement. And so, it's a lot of good energy moving forward for Libra and for Libra rising. All right, for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, this is another big one because Mars is the co-ruler or the traditional ruler of the sign of Scorpio. So especially if you're a Scorpio rising, you have been affected more so than the other signs by the Mars retrograde for two different reasons. Because especially if you have your sun, moon, or rising within the first 9 degrees of the sign of Scorpio, I would even say 10 degrees, you might feel it too. You've been having Mars back and forth, squaring your ascendant throughout this entire retrograde period. This is also the ruler of your chart, right? So for Scorpios, what Mars is doing and what Pluto's doing also, this isn't about Pluto, but for Scorpios, Mars and Pluto are co-rulers of your chart. Mars is the traditional ruler, and it was the ruler for thousands of years prior to the discovery of Pluto, which only happened in the 1930s. So Mars has this really strong energy of rulership over Scorpio. That's why Scorpios, even though they're a water sign, they almost act and engage in life like a really passionate, really emotionally charged fire sign, right? Because there's that martial energy as part of the rulership. And so when Mars is retrograding, it affects Scorpios more so. So Scorpios, who are normally very passionate, very decisive, very focused on whatever their goals, their intentions are, they're very intense about whatever it is that they're doing, that intensity tends to wane during the time of the Mars retrograde. They become maybe more passive aggressive instead of overtly aggressive, because when a Scorpio is angry or it feels a certain way, you're going to know it. Maybe not when they're feeling a certain way like in a vulnerable state, but when they're angry or they have some sort of distrust or some sort of something that they need to say, they're going to say it, and they're going to be very blunt about it. When Mars is in retrograde, Scorpio rising might be a little bit more passive aggressive, or they might just kind of sit back and reflect instead of addressing things head on. They might feel a sense of just wanting to take time out to relax instead of just pushing forward. Whatever it is that they're focusing on, they might take a step back, right? So it might be that you needed to take a step back because there's this laser focus with Scorpio rising. And so with Mars retrograde, it sort of undoes that, and it broadens your awareness. It broadens your perspective when it comes to anything that you're doing that involves your willpower and that focused intensity. So that way you can kind of look at the bigger picture, right? Which you need to do sometimes, especially with Scorpios, because Scorpios are very black and white. It is or it isn't. They're into it or they're not. And so when they're into it, they're so into it that sometimes they can't see the full spectrum of color. They can't see what's going on around them. And when they're not into it, they're not looking at it at all. So this broadens, it allows you to kind of take a step back out of that intense zone a little bit. It also brings this energy of hesitation. I mean, Scorpios don't like to wait. When they want to do something, they're going to do it, and they're going to focus on it. And Mars, stationing and Mars being in retrograde is needing to wait. It's needing to be patient instead of jumping forward. One of my teachers always says with Mars retrograde that, he who initiates loses. And so, Scorpios can have a hard time with that because they're used to just jumping in and doing what they want to do because it feels right and they're passionate about it in that moment. And so anyway, so now that Mars is stationing to go direct, you have that energy freed up, right? So you can start to move forward with things slowly but surely over these next few weeks, and over the next 2 weeks in particular, all the way through to September 12th, you're going to be revisiting the energy from the past couple of weeks. So from August 14th until this point, which has had to do with communication, with learning, right? Learning a new skill set, having to undo old learning, old habitual patterns of thinking. That's a huge thing with the third house. It has to do with our habitual patterns of thinking. It has to do with the thinking that we do and the communicating that we do and the way that we communicate on a day-to-day basis. And so you might have had to revisit that energy, look at the way that you think and speak and how that affects your ability to do what you want to do, to access your willpower. Are you blocking yourself just by your day-to-day thoughts, right? Are you blocking yourself from accessing your willpower just by your communications, right? Because thoughts are things, words matter. And so if you're constantly saying, I can't, I won't, I shouldn't, then you're not going to, right? And so looking at energies like that with, Scorpio and Scorpio rising, your own self-talk and the way that you speak to other people. Are you speaking in terms of what you can't do and what you don't want? Are you speaking in terms of what you can do and what you do want? And that's all going to be highlighted, and you're going to have time to move forward and utilize these new skill sets, to utilize this energy that has been unblocked and undone, so that way you can communicate in a different way that's more conducive to you acting on your willpower. This could also be you moving forward with a new skill set that you've learned and getting to try it out and test it out in the world, right? Or getting to actually start taking that course that the past couple of weeks you've been thinking about taking. And then as we move forward, it's going to be transiting into your fourth house of the home, family, property. And so this is kind of the bigger energy, especially for Scorpios at those first 9 degrees. Sun, moon, rising, especially rising, where Mars is going to come back and square your ascendant again, or Mars is going to come back and square your sun again. And so the challenges that came about where you had to rearrange things in terms of your home life, your family, your property over these past 2 months, and all of the plans that you've been making, all of the frustrations and blockages that you've been letting go of when it comes to your family dynamics and your relationship with your family, the restructuring that's been going on in this area, you get to see the manifestation, the results of all of the hard work that you've been putting in, all the plans that you've been making, all of the rearranging that you've been doing. It gets to finally move forward. And so, you're going to start to see a lot of dramatic, I think, changes for all of the fixed signs in particular, especially coming into end of September all the way through the beginning of October. It's going to be a huge time period of forward momentum and manifestation where everything you've been wanting to happen, and hopefully if you've finally learned patience, Scorpio, over these past couple of weeks, it's going to be much more enjoyable. You're going to be able to allow it to unfold as you engage in it, because this is going to be about forward momentum with your willpower as well. But it's about learning to allow instead of constantly doing and pushing and forcing, wielding your power with Scorpio. All right. I feel like I did a long Scorpio one, but Scorpio's got a lot going on, and I'm a Scorpio rising too, so I tend to do that. I apologize. Okay, so for Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, there is, so Mars is stationing to go direct in your second house. The second house is the house of finance, money, the way that you create and earn resources for yourself, the way that you hoard money or acquire resources, or what you actually do with your resources once you obtain them. Sagittarius, even though they're a very lackadaisical, sort of jovial sort of sign where they're just about adventure and, all of this type of stuff, they tend to be very responsible, fiscally, right? Because they have Capricorn on their second house cusp. Capricorn is all about working hard, being responsible. They have plans for their future. If they want to go on an adventure, they, put the money away and they work hard toward doing that, and they make sure that they can, make it happen and that it's reasonable to do. They're not usually people that just spend on things. They'll spend on adventures, but they spend on creating good structure for themselves so they can have those adventures. And so Mars has been retrograding into your second house. And so Mars retrograde in the second house since August 14th has been you looking at blockages in terms of your belief systems, in terms of your spending habits, in terms of the way that you save money, the way that you budget your money, the way that you earn money too. It could be you looking at blockages in terms of your current career path, and maybe that's blocking you from expanding on your wealth or doing something new that you want to do in the area of creating resources for yourself. And so now you get to unblock that energy. If there's any frustration around money and resources these past couple of weeks, a need to sort of move forward with some sort of new plan, new beginning in this area, now you get to do it. Those blockages have become unblocked, right? Those belief systems that were preventing you from actually moving forward. And creating what you wanted to create for yourself in terms of your financial stability and foundation, now a lot of those blockages might have been removed. Maybe there were arguments and disputes around resources in the past couple of weeks, and those arguments and disputes allowed you to see, what was blocking you. And so now you get to move forward with new plans involving money, resources. Maybe there's a major purchase that you were thinking about making these past couple of weeks, and now you get to move forward. You get to buy it, right? Because you planned and you saved and you made sure that you moved the money around properly. And now it's like, okay, I get to initiate this action. I get to buy this thing that I've been wanting to buy, or put a down payment on this trip or whatever it is, right? And so, new beginnings when it comes to resources, the way you create your resources, the way you spend them. And then it's going to be moving into your third house. The third house is the house of your beliefs. It's the house of not your beliefs in terms of your overarching sort of core beliefs and paradigms, although that's part of it, right? Because those inform your day-to-day thoughts, your day-to-day reality, your day-to-day communications. But it's about looking at blockages when it comes to, just as I said with Scorpio, when it comes to your day-to-day thoughts, right? So in your day-to-day life, what are you thinking that is preventing you from accessing your willpower? Are your thoughts negative? Are you thinking, I can't do this, I don't want to do this? Are you thinking about your limitations, or are you thinking about your freedoms, your abilities, right? What you can do, what you want to do, the goals that you've set for yourself, and how you can do something very unique, right? That's Aquarius in the third house cusp. Create a unique way to manifest what it is that you want, right, in your life. And so looking at your communication style as well. How is your communication style hindering you from acting on your willpower? Are you talking all the time in terms of can't, won't, don't, responsibility, blah, 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 like all that kind of stuff, where it's like you're not speaking in terms of what you can do, what you want to do, what excites you, instead of looking at what prevents you and hinders you, look at what excites you, what motivates you, those types of things. So thinking about reframing and changing your communication style. Also, it could have been you having to go back and redo something when it comes to your education or some sort of certification, and now you get to move forward and reap the rewards and the benefits of what you've learned or what you've accomplished throughout that time. And so maybe you get that certification when Mars moves direct, or you start that course that you've been wanting to start for so long, but you had all these mental blockages, or you had these financial blockages that prevented you from actually moving forward with learning this new skill set. And this could also involve short distance travel. Maybe you've been thinking about planning a small trip somewhere nearby, and now you finally get to do it, or purchasing a vehicle. That could be, bridging the gap between the second and third house as well. But whatever it is for you, you finally get the forward momentum going. And Sagittarius is a fire sign, right? Sagittarius likes to go, move forward, expand, grow, learn, have those adventures, and now you get to have them. So that's, really exciting. And so, yeah, that's Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. All right. And so for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this Mars stationing to go direct is happening in your sign. And so this is very much about you. It's about your willpower, your self-interest, what you want to do out in the world, and what's blocking you from doing that. And so you've been looking at that, especially these past couple of weeks. And this is especially true, and it's going to be very intense for you if you have your rising sign, sun sign, moon sign, any of your personal planets near that 28th degree, so 25 to 30 degrees, or I guess there's no 29, 59 minutes or whatever degrees in the sign of Capricorn. anything that's been blocking you from moving forward and accessing your willpower, doing things because it benefits you and your own self-interest, instead of just looking at needing to be responsible and needing to take care of your responsibilities and do the responsible right thing and take care of this, that, and the other thing before you do what's right for you and what you want to do because you want to do it and it's good for you, right? And so looking at those blockages, unblocking them, you might feel very frustrated at the start of this week if you have your rising sign, sun, moon, any of that at the end degrees or in general, right? Because it's still going to be in your first house. There could be frustration. There could be an energy of just wanting to do something or push forward with something, or some sort of frustration or resentment or anger bubbles up to the surface and it needs to be expressed out in the world. But once that happens, you'll get to this place of relief, of clarity, and you'll be able to start moving forward toward the end of this week. And so you're going to be moving forward with the things that you want to do that benefit you and your own self-interest. And that's going to be all the way through till September 12th. And then we're going to be moving into your second house, which is you moving forward with new financial plans. You might have been working on, rebudgeting, restructuring the area of your life involving finance, material possessions, your beliefs around finances that maybe are hindering you from actually creating resources and wealth, because you have Aquarius on the second house cusp. Even though you're very responsible, there's a need to do things your own way when it comes to the way that you create money, wealth, and resources for yourself. And so any sort of blockages, like I can't do that, it's too weird, it doesn't work that way, whatever it is in your head that's been preventing you from actually moving forward and unlocking your true potential in this area when it comes to your ability to earn money or to spend money on things that you want to spend money on, now you get to move forward, right? So you can buy that thing, you can uh, plan that new budget and start to save money in the way that you wanted to, or you can start that new job, right? Or start working more independently on the side for your side hustle, whatever it is that you've been thinking of, right, in this area. Or if there's been disputes about finances in marriage or something like that, the disputes have lifted and now you can move forward as a unit and, act decisively together in terms of creating and utilizing your resources or making that major purchase. All right. And for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, so Mars is going to be stationing direct in your 12th house. That's the hidden house. It's the house of hidden enemies, the house of 12th house institutions like hospitals, monasteries, brothels, ashrams, churches, prisons, all sorts of places that are sort of hidden away from the world. And so you might have been dealing with those institutions in one way or another, very literally. And, they could have been very intense, and now you get to move forward and benefit from the results of having to deal with those institutions. It could also be, it's the house of hidden enemies. So you could have had some hidden enemies come to the surface, somebody working behind the scenes against you. And now that it's sort of been aired out in the world and you understand what's going on, you can move forward without having to deal with that anymore. You've removed that blockage, you've removed that restraint, you've removed that difficult energy. And now you get to move forward with greater excitement, greater clarity, greater decisiveness. This could also be you having to revisit your spiritual practice and restructure that area of your life. And now you get to move forward with a better practice that suits you better, that suits your own self-interest, right? That gives you more courage and more strength and more willpower in your day-to-day life to act out in the world. This is also going to be, especially if you have your sun, moon, rising in Aquarius within the first 9 degrees, it'll be especially intense over these next few weeks or month and a half, actually, because Mars will be moving forward over your ascendant, and that brings a lot of intensity, right? It's a lot of needing to act on your willpower. You've been looking at very much blockages to you acting on your own willpower. There could have been arguments, disputes, fights with people where you needed to clear the air and let things go, so that way you could have the ability to access your willpower to do what you want to do for your own self-interest courageously, right? It's all about you. It's all about what you want to do and how you're going to go out there and do it in the world these next few weeks. And so whatever it is that you've been holding on to, waiting for, there's been a lot of rearranging and restructuring in all areas of your life, especially involving relationships and again, your own self-interest, your own self-care, and your persona and personality out in the world. Maybe you've been, not allowing yourself to shine. Maybe you've been giving yourself sort of putting yourself on the back burner in favor of relationships. And now you get to move forward, right, in terms of doing things because they favor your interest, because you want to do them, right? You're going to have a much stronger willpower. You're going to be fired up to do something new over these next couple of months. So whatever it is that you've been working on, whatever blockages have come up for you, now it's time to move forward. Now it's time to reap the rewards and benefits of all the restructuring you've been doing in all areas of life, but especially when it comes to the way that you act and interface with the world. And for Pisces and Pisces rising, so Mars is stationing to go direct in your 11th house. The 11th house is the house of friends, social networks. It's communication via the internet, connecting with groups of people. It's humanitarian types of pursuits. It's clubs, organizations, all of these types of things. And so over the past couple of weeks, you might have been rethinking certain friendships, certain groups of people that you spend time with. Maybe you've been thinking about joining some sort of new group or getting yourself out there so you can make new friends. And now's the time, after you've removed those blockages, even if it's your own self-doubt that you can, do this, or that you're good enough, or that people are going to like you, or whatever it is, whatever your hangups are in this area. Now for the next couple of weeks, until September 12th, you get to move forward. You get to initiate new friendships. You get to join that group or form your own group, start that YouTube channel, do that thing on social media that you've been wanting to do, make that website, right? Those are all 11th house themes. So you get to move forward. Go out with your friends. Maybe there's been blockages to you just going out and enjoying spending time with your friends and with the people that you love to surround yourself with, because the 11th house is the house of the people that we surround ourselves with by choice. And so now you get to choose to go out there and to spend time with your friends. Maybe you've been working too hard, right? And you've released those blockages, and now you get to do it. And so this is moving forward with new friendships and reigniting your passion or your commitment to your current friendships, and joining new groups, forming new clubs, doing new things involving technology, the internet, all of that. And then as we move into the second half of this, when Mars moves into the sign of Aquarius, which happens on September 12th, all the way through October 9th, you're going to be revisiting a lot of the energy from June and July, and even into the first part of August. And this is going to have to do with 12th house institutions. It's going to have to do with your spirituality, your subconscious. So it could be you having to revisit old spiritual practices. You had to remove maybe old subconscious blockages that were preventing you from acting on your willpower out in the world. Maybe this is you enjoying a new spiritual practice moving forward because you've been doing a lot of deep inner work and you've found a new practice that suits you. This could be you engaging very actively in creativity, right? Taking those subconscious things and creating something with that out in the world. That's a very 12th house thing. The 12th house is where you go to isolate yourself in like a little cocoon to create, especially when it's creativity that's very deep and very personal. Also, the 12th house is the house of like writers. So it could be you moving forward with a project involving writing or film or something, painting, something that you've been creating behind the scenes. And now you get to actually manifest that out in the world. Maybe you've been bottling it up, ruminating on it, and now you're like, okay, I'm going to take that painting class. I'm going to express this in some sort of way. I'm going to start journaling. I'm going to, write that book. I'm going to, whatever it is, I'm going to publish my book finally. Something, right? Or it could just be that you need to take more time to spend with yourself, right? This is the house of solitude and seclusion. Pisces in general is a very sensitive sign. They need time to themselves because it's very difficult for a Pisces to separate their energy from the energy of other people sometimes. And so, this is you actively engaging in solitude, in spiritual practice, in creativity. And that's going to feed your soul so that way you can manifest and create what you want and act on your own willpower moving forward. And so that's a lot of the energy for Pisces and for Pisces rising. All right, guys. So that's all 12 signs. That I went beyond just this week to like a month or two from now. But I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys the full scope of what's going on here because it's a really important week. Finally, we have all this really beautiful energy and forward momentum, and I'm really excited about that. I hope you are too. And thank you so much for watching this video, for subscribing to my channel. Please subscribe, the little button below. I just hit over 3,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for that. And I told you guys once I hit 3,000, I would start doing live videos. I'm going to plan to do that actually middle to end of September after my webinar, because I've got a lot going on there and I don't want to start a bunch of new things all at once while Mars is slowly moving. I'm going to just let it build slowly, right? But thank you so much for watching, and let me know how your week has been and how you dealt with that big kite pattern and how Mars retrograde has been. Let me know in the comments below and tell me your placements. I'm always interested in hearing those types of things. All right. Thank you guys so much. Bye.